slapping, not punching, but slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars. Let's turn to Dehenna Davison, who's written that letter, who joins me now. Dehenna, welcome to you. I've seen your letter. Just explain what you've written for our viewers and listeners who haven't.
Well, I've got the letter here, and effectively, I've written to Will expressing kind of disappointment that, given that he's someone with such a huge fan following and such huge influence, that rather than using his platform at the Oscars for good, he used it for the exact opposite, actually to promote violence, and violence is a reasonable retaliation for a joke that he found distasteful. Asking him if he will engage with our group. So I run the all-party parliamentary group on One Punch assaults. Clearly, this was a little bit different, as Will seemed to slap Chris Rock. But even so, promoting that sort of violence as the first step seems the exact wrong way. And I'd love him to hear from some of our members who have lost loved ones to One Punch assaults, in the hope that he might, listen to our campaign and help us raise awareness.
Dehenna, I'm sure you've come across people, and I'm sure you can think of, working men's clubs in the northeast constituency where you are and where your politics are rooted and began life, who would say, look, if somebody says something really offensive about my loved one, I'm not going to let it pass.
I think it's understandable wanting to defend your loved ones. And actually, in a way, that's very much why I set up this all-party group, because the reason I'm so passionate about this issue is because my own father was killed by a single punch. But there are ways to stand up for what you believe in, to stand up for your loved ones without resorting to violence and without resorting to the sort of act we saw from Will Smith. And that's what I really want to raise awareness of there, that violence is not the answer.
Yeah. There'll be people who'll have watched our programme this evening, Dehenna, and this afternoon, they'll say, you're obsessing about something in a country, it's Hollywood, 8,000 miles away. What's it got to do with us? It's a minor detail, storm in a teacup. I would say, and I've got alongside me Leo Kurz, who's a stand-up comedian, who will say, actually, you know what, it does affect attitudes and values. If it becomes okay and normalised for somebody who takes offence at a gag to go up on stage and clout someone because they don't like what they've said, that becomes normal, a little bit more normalised than it ought to be.
Well, I completely agree with that. I don't think violence should ever be normalised as a kind of reasonable reaction to something like that of Chris Rock. And comedy's comedy. I mean, there are comedians who tell jokes that I find very distasteful. Do I retaliate in a way like Will Smith did? Of course not. I just don't go and watch their shows. Maybe I'd, feel strongly if it was about one of my loved ones, if there was a joke being made about one of my loved ones. But that's comedy. And it's not as though this is the first time that Will Smith has been, the punchline of a joke, that he's had gags made about him or his family. But certainly what we don't want to do is kind of shut down comedy or make comedians feel unsafe.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a poll we commissioned, Dehenna, about, and there's a big response, which I'm not surprised at, because it's one of those stories that I'm sure you've noticed, even in Westminster, if you're there today, that people have been talking about in the cafes and the pubs and in the water cooler. But in our poll, 44% of our respondents are saying, actually, they just don't believe it was for real. It was confected. It was a publicity stunt for the flagging viewing figures of the Oscars. I don't know about you, but every fibre of my being intuits that was for real.
I mean, I agree. We weren't there. We didn't see it up close. But certainly looking at Chris Rock's reaction to it afterwards, the way that he sort of really stuttered and stumbled to regain himself, to me, it didn't seem like it was something that was staged. We may never know. But I think the bigger point is that, once again, it goes back to what you said there, Colin, about normalising violence, normalising going and thumping someone as a reasonable response to a joke he didn't like, which is the real story here, whether it's scripted or otherwise.